I want to tell you about one of the most unbelievable survival stories you will ever hear. It's the true story of the longest anyone has ever survived being lost at sea. And honestly, it completely redefines what we think is humanly possible. Just for a second, picture this. You're on a tiny boat, and you look around, and all you see in every single direction is an endless, empty ocean. And it gets worse. Everything you'd rely on is gone. The engine is dead, the radio is just static, your food is long gone, you are completely and totally alone. Now, what if that nightmare scenario didn't last for a few hours or even a few days, but for over a year? Well, this isn't some hypothetical. This actually happened. So, let's set the scene. It's November 2012. We meet a fisherman, a guy named José Salvador Alvarenga. He's heading out from the coast of Mexico for what's supposed to be a really simple 2-day fishing trip. Now, Jose was no rookie. He was a seasoned pro from El Salvador, a really tough and experienced guy. His boat was just a small 7-meter open skiff. For him, this was supposed to be completely routine, just another day at the office. But here's the thing. His boat was dangerously unprepared for what was about to happen. I mean, it had no cabin, no roof, basically zero shelter from the elements. And get this. It didn't have an anchor to stop it from drifting, or even oars to try and paddle. They were totally exposed. And then, disaster. Just hours into the trip, a monster storm comes out of nowhere and just slams them. The engine floods and dies, the radio cuts out, and just like that, they're adrift, completely at the mercy of the vast Pacific Ocean. So yeah, the simple fishing trip? That was officially over. What came next was a brutal day-in, day-out fight for their lives against an ocean that just doesn't care. They had to completely rewrite the rules of survival. They figured out how to catch fish, turtles, and even seabirds with their bare hands. They ate everything raw, they'd collect rainwater to drink, but when there were no storms, their only source of hydration was turtle blood. I mean, can you even imagine? But this brutal diet, it takes a heavy toll. José's young fishing partner, a 22-year-old named Ezequiel, he started to get really sick. His body just began rejecting the raw food that was keeping them alive. He couldn't stomach it anymore. José was begging him, you've got to fight, you've got to eat. But Ezequiel was fading fast. He eventually turned to José and just whispered that he wanted to sleep. And then, one day, he was gone. José was now completely, terrifyingly alone. So the physical battle for survival was already insane, but now a whole new psychological war began. This was just one man against absolute solitude and the crushing emptiness of the sea. The sheer amount of time he was out there is just staggering. Day 60 turns into day 150, then day 300. That's almost a year. Imagine trying to keep track of time with just the sun and the moon, feeling your mind start to fray with every single sunrise. And there were these absolutely soul-crushing moments of false hope. He would see these huge container ships pass by, sometimes so close he could literally make out people on the deck. He'd scream, wave his arms, anything, but his little boat was just an invisible speck in the ocean. So how do you keep from going completely insane? Well, José fought back. He created routines. He would talk to the moon. He'd have conversations with birds that landed on his boat. Anything at all to hear a voice, even if it was just his own. After more than a year of this absolute torture, at a point when any sane person's hope would have been extinguished, something changed. This impossible journey was actually nearing an even more impossible end. He started to notice things he hadn't seen in months. More birds circling, logs floating in the water. And then, after 438 days, he saw it. A thin green line on the horizon. Land. He jumped from his boat and just crawled onto the sand, completely overwhelmed. 438 days. Let that number sink in for a second. That's 1 year, 2 months, and 1 week adrift in the open ocean. It is still the longest anyone in recorded history has ever survived being lost at sea. And the distance he traveled, it's just as mind-boggling. He had drifted over 9,000 kilometers, which is more than 5,500 miles, across the widest ocean on the entire planet. To try and put that into perspective, he drifted from the coast of Mexico all the way to the Marshall Islands, a tiny little speck in the middle of the Pacific. That distance is the same as traveling across the entire United States almost 3 times over. Unsurprisingly, when he was rescued, his story was met with a lot of disbelief. I mean, it just sounded impossible, right? But later, researchers studied the ocean currents and satellite data from that time period, and they confirmed that the drift patterns would have carried a small boat on that exact path. The science actually proved his impossible journey was true. Which really brings us to the core of this whole thing, human resilience. That incredible ability to withstand unimaginable hardship and somehow recover. José Salvador Alvarenga is a living, breathing embodiment of that idea. His story just leaves us all with this one profound question. When we're faced with the ultimate test, what is the true limit of the human will to survive? Well, José's journey suggests that it lies far, far beyond anything we can possibly imagine.